friends. I'm Dana Bristol Smith with Leap to Success, and I'm excited to introduce you to an amazing woman. She is definitely a woman who leaps forward in her own life. Her name is Ann Landstrom. She is an award-winning photographer, and her company is called Studio Ageless. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so happy to have you here. And I want to start by thanking you, Ann, because you've been an amazing supporter of Leap to Success and empowering women. And I know that what we do, helping women move forward after domestic violence and other trauma, is meaningful to you and important to you. So I just want to thank you for your support.
Yes, yes. No, anywhere I can support is very close to my heart, as you know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I want to start this conversation by asking you, who is a woman who inspires you?
Well, there's many of them, but one particular one is Jane Fonda. And I was just watching her documentary on Netflix last week, and she's just one of those women that out of the box thinker and really stepped. I mean, not everybody agreed to some of the choices that she made and what she did, but she was fearless, and she went for and promoted for a cause that she really believed in, and an activist. And even to this day, at 80, whatever she is, 85, 87, she's still out there fighting for climate change. And to me, that's just amazing that she just won't stop. And that when she believes in something, she's out there fighting for it, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great example of an inspirational woman, and a woman whose words and actions
Yeah.
have been really important to a lot of causes through our times. And she certainly stood the test of time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. With a little help.
Yes, yes, but I think about the name, Studio Ageless and your photography, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about your photography and why you've chosen to work with so many women and what you see as the gift that you help women find.
Well, I'm also coming from a domestic violence background, and about 12 years ago, I came out of an abusive marriage, husband that was a narcissist, verbally and mentally abusive, and I ended up broken, and homeless. And my way back to where I'm at today was the only thing I knew what to do was photography. So once I knew that nobody was going to come and rescue me, that I had to actually rescue myself, that's when I started to look for jobs, and found a job as a boudoir photographer. And I thought, well, who wants to have all these images in their lingerie or underwear? I thought that's tacky, but I needed the money, and so I went and interviewed, and they said, well, um, you're one of the top three, so but you will have to have a boudoir session yourself. And I thought, oh no. That's the last thing that was on my mind at the time, because my self-esteem, my confidence, all of that was down in the ground. And but I did it, and it changed my life. It changed how I saw myself. I got the job. I eventually had the highest sales in the company. She had 16 studios across the US. And she said, Ann, I don't know what you're doing, but you have the highest sales of all the photographers. And I thought to myself, I don't know what I'm doing. But then I realized what I was doing. I put the camera down, and I was connecting with the person in front of me. And sometimes it was more of therapy. I was the therapist, and or I was in therapy. It was like a give and take between two women. And once we broke down that barrier, they opened up, and I got the true essence of who they were. And they felt
Wow.
comfortable with me. And I realized how, because we as women, we beat ourselves so much in the mirror anyway. And then if you come from a background and somebody else has beaten you down physically or mentally, it's hard to see yourself. And having somebody else be able to bring that to you, I mean, for me, it was like my mess became my message, and now I'm just so passionate about being able to do that for women.
Wow. Wow. When I think about what you say, one of the things that I'm hearing that I think is really special is that you are creating a safe enough space for a woman to be vulnerable. I mean, anytime we look into a mirror, and especially if we're wearing less clothes than usual as you're doing boudoir photography, all of those negative messages come up, really loud. So I think what you're helping women do is really be able to accept themselves,
Yep.
and be seen.
Yes, yes, because if you think about it, and I photograph all women, but my passion is to photograph women over 40 because now we have a history, right? We have a
Mhm.
history in our life, and we also have a body history. We might have some extra scars and stretch marks and things that we don't love about ourselves, right? And
Mhm.
as a young woman in her 20s might not have because she hasn't gone through that journey yet.
Yes.
So how do you fall back in love with your body after having all this, right?
Mhm.
And it's not easy to do that.
Especially in front of a camera.
Is it right? And so that's why I find it so, for me, rewarding to see women of all ages. I mean, when I did my ageless magazine or
Mhm.
campaign, which I'm starting up again with season number 2, I photographed over 100 women for that, and anywhere from age 40 to 90.
Wow.
And uh, my most curvy woman was over 450 pounds.
Wow.
So and each woman got to write a love letter to herself. So it was like something that was a healing experience from the inside out.
Mhm.
And then I just fell in love with the whole ageless concept, because
Mhm.
you don't see women in commercials on TV unless it's for Viagra or Depends.
That's horrible, but I think it's true.
Right. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, or maybe for an antidepressant.
Exactly. So why can't we be
Yeah.
seen as beautiful and vibrant women? I mean, most women over 40 and 50, I mean, we've now started to become empty nesters, and it's like our turn now.
Mhm.
And there's no time to pull down the curtain at this point. I mean, not for me, I just feel like my life is beginning,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be 62.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I think about that too. I think we we get so much more wisdom with
Mhm.
age. I mean, I started Leap to Success at 40. That was the beginning. So I think, I didn't really know up until then what my purpose was.
Yeah,
I was still discovering it along the way. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'd like to ask you now about Leap, since we have Leap Day coming up here. And if you would share with us a leap that you've taken in your own life.
I believe, well, I've taken a few leaps. Moving from a different country was one, but
Mhm.
that was a big leap in my early 20s. But I strongly believe that some of the biggest leaps that I took was after I went through that divorce
Mhm.
and had to pull myself up again from nothing and start over. And I think the biggest leap was just believing that I could, believing that, not worrying so much about the how, but just knowing, like, believing that I can and I will. And as long as I get up in the morning and walk towards my goals,
Mhm.
that's that it will happen. And it did, and it has. And of course there's been some curveballs, like life throws you. It's not always perfect, but I think a lot of us look for that magic wand, like the fast button, and there
Mhm.
is none. You are the fast button and the wand.
Mhm.
It's like there is nothing else. And it does take leap to believing. But one thing that I used, uh, when I thought that, I didn't have any hope, or I didn't have any money, or whatever it was, when it was out of my immediate hands to do something about it, rather than putting myself through so much anxiety, because you gone through trauma, you have so much anxiety anyway. I created an imaginary worry shelf. So I put whatever it was, if it was money, whatever it was, I said, universe, God, or whoever you believe in, I'm going to put this on the worry shelf, and I'm not going to worry about it more because I know you will take care of it.
Wow.
And every time it did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that what you're describing is your own self-awareness.
Yeah.
And you're having the thought that's worry, and you're recognizing it, and you're recognizing that thought is not helping you.
Yeah.
It's not useful to you. So you're physically or mentally putting it away on the shelf,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that it'll be taken care of, but you don't have to figure out how.
Yes.
Yeah. What
It
a
took a
great
lot of pressure
technique.
off. It took a lot of pressure off, and I'm here. I mean, a lot of things has happened in all of those 12 years,
Yeah.
and it's worrying is just not helpful, and figuring out a way of how you can get rid of that worry and anxiety is I think the biggest way of leaping to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all takes mental awareness. And what I did was I read a lot of law of attraction books, listened to tapes constantly, start following people like Les Brown, motivational speakers, just to
Yeah. And I see Les Brown's photo behind
yeah,
you,
Les
and I see
Brown,
Lisa Nichols, and I
Lisa
see some other
Nichols.
famous people up there.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I mean, how the law of attraction was working, these were people I followed, read their books, because I needed that to be able to get up in the morning and get towards my goals. And look who I got to photograph now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the law of attraction manifestation full circle. If
Yeah.
anything.
That's the law of attraction. That's goal setting.
Yeah.
That's literally visualization.
Yeah.
And there they are on your walls, and there they are as your clients.
Yeah.
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 You've come full circle, Anne. Full circle. That's beautiful. So I love that that image of the worry shelf and goal setting. And is there any other advice that you would share for women who are considering making a change and maybe just don't quite have their courage yet, but they really want things to be different than they are right now?
Yeah. Well, your biggest enemy is fear.
Mm.
And on the other side of fear could be your freedom, could be financial independence, the biggest love of your life, whatever that is. But the fear is so handicaps so many people, including me. So for a while, I was just doing things, jumping out of airplanes and bungee jumping and stuff
Oh
like
my
that,
goodness.
just to get rid of fear of
Mhm,
things from my trauma. And
mhm.
am I saying go jump over an airplane? No, don't do that unless that's something that you want to do. But
Thank
I
you.
needed to do that for me, because I said, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Mhm,
Because that was one of my biggest fears. So I
mhm.
was like, if I can tackle that fear, then I can tackle anything in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I appreciate that you said you don't have to jump out of an airplane.
No.
But I think doing something, whether it's a little tiny step or whether
Yeah.
it's a big step, that just belief that we can, and maybe we're taking a first step. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I did that. I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to do the next thing and the next thing. And I think you're a beautiful example of what taking those steps and taking those leaps has, what you've created in your life as a result of it.
And sometimes it's baby steps, right? I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes you get setbacks, and maybe you don't want to get out of bed that day because you have a bad day, and that's okay as long as you get up the next day
Yeah.
or the next day. So I'm not saying that when I got on my journey that it was just roses every single day. Okay,
Yeah.
really sorry. But I strongly believe as long as you believe, that was like my biggest thing was putting on the worry shelf and believing that I can. And then another thing is, don't compare yourself to everybody else.
Mm.
That's a huge thing that people do. Like they look around and like, oh my God, there's so much further ahead, and and that's another thing that is the worst thing you can do to yourself, because this is your journey, this is your life, and it's you compare your journey with yourself. Look back in the mirror and see where you came from, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And, you know, it reminds me of the saying that, you know, you are the author of your own story.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're not living other people's stories. We're not living other people's lives. We're living our own lives.
Yeah.
And I think each of these suggestions that you made can be really helpful. And I'd like you to please share, how can people get in touch with you? If you'd share your website, and we'll put this in our description too, and on our social media. But I know people are going to want to reach out to you. They're going to want to be photographed by you. How can they find you?
So I'm right in the middle of rebranding. So you can, there's a couple of places that you can find me at studioageless.com. And my old site's going to be up for probably another year or so. It's amphotography.com. And if you want to get in touch with me, I can give my phone number and email as well. It's hello@studioageless.com. And the phone number is 619-848-0070.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne. I know that more women are going to be reaching out to you, and I know that more women are going to be inspired by you, and more women are going to feel beautiful because of you. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
And thank you so much for what you are doing for women.
That's my pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.